Okay, so in the last video, what we got up to was we have our ship right here. Okay, perfectly fine, perfectly balanced and centered. But if I'm pressing left and right on my arrow key, nothing's happening. So that's what we're gonna do first. Okay, so we'll just exit out of there, and let's come over here. Okay, so let's think about this. First thing is that we need to have some kind of a speed. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually create a bunch of methods. Now inside of my update, I could do everything inside of there, but just like when you're doing a main program, you don't want to have everything inside the main program when you can create functions on the side and make it look nice and easier. Also create functions if you just want to do the same thing over and over again. But just for consistency and for really for to be aesthetically pleasing, I'm just going to actually just create a method over here and we'll just call it movement. Okay, you can name it whatever you want, and in here I'm just going to just write ship's movement. Okay, so ship's movement left and right. Okay, so what do we need first of all? Well, we need to know a speed. Now since this ship is only going to be moving left and right, okay, we will set a ship speed and we'll just set it to 0 for now, or actually yeah, set it for 0 for now. Okay, and then we'll do self.ship speed. Self.speed, sure, is equal to, I think 8 will be pretty good. All right, so down here what we'll do is we will say key state. Okay, and this is just a variable that you can name this whatever you want, is equal to pygame dot key dot get pressed. Okay, this will return a list of all the keys that are currently being pressed, even when you hold it down. That's important. Okay, and so we'll say now if key state. Okay, now since it's a list, we're going to be searching through this list. And if it says pygame.k underscore right, so if the player presses the right arrow, okay, what we want to do is we want to say self.speedx, okay, that's horizontally, is equal to self.speed. Okay, so we're taking the x, the speed x, this variable here is right now it's 0, and we're setting it equal to +8. If we're going to the right, since I'm sorry, in this case, it's the opposite, it's merit effect. Since we're going to the right, okay, we're going to be increasing, and if the key state of pygame.k underscore left self.speedx is equal to minus self.speed, since we'll be going to the left. Okay, negative x pixels to the left. All right, now to get this thing moving, okay, remember we're going to be moving the rectangle around the image. So self.rect.x, okay, plus equals self.speedx. Okay, so depending on if you're making a right, then we're going to make this a positive. And if we're pressing the left arrow key, then we're going to be subtracting or moving back 8 pixels. We're setting this -8 to the speed. So all we have to do is just call self.speedx. And wherever the rectangle is right now it's at width divided by 2. So it's at, what is that, 240, right? Then if we're moving to the right, 240, right? 248, 256, and so on and so forth. So that's what we'll do there. Now, of course, to get this thing moving, we need to come down here, and our player class must have an update, since down here we have all sprites dot update. Okay, so it's gonna search each of the classes for a method that updates. And say we have it here, we had nothing in there initially, but we can just add that now. Self.movement is the name of the method that we're going to be calling. Okay, and if we were to go ahead and run this, let's see what would happen. Okay, so we have left and right, left and right. Okay, so let me just show you something really quickly. I like to take the time to go through any kind of like misconceptions or errors. Some people are probably wondering, like, why can't we just make this 8? Okay, and let's see why. Okay, so if I have this piece here, right, I'm trying to think. I have so many different things that I want to go through, but let's see. If I were to make this here, okay, and we to just change that, we would have a continuous amount, and we can't go back at all. I think I'll make a video based on those I'm gonna make a video based on those misconceptions because I think that's important. All right, but I don't want to get too over it right now. So many of them. All right, so then the next thing now is that when I go ahead and I run this, I can go off the screen. Like that's it. Also, look. So see what's happening right now is that if I keep it going, it just keeps on going. We don't want that. So if I go ahead and make this 0, let me just show you what happens. And I run this. If I press the right hand, it just keeps going. So I'm pressing the arrow once and it keeps going. Now we don't want that. Okay, we want to be able to move left and right, but also be able to stop the ship whenever we want. So to fix that error, what we'll do is at the top here, we're going to say self.speed x is equal to 0. Let me explain how this works. Okay, in the beginning, the speed x is 0. Then after we go through each of these lines here, if the person's hits the right, it's assigning 8, since self.speed is 8, to self.speedx. So now this attribute is 8. So every iteration it's going 8 pixels every single time. Or I should really be going to the right, 8 pixels, or to the left, minus 8 pixels. So every single time that this method is called, we want to make sure that we are setting the speed back to 0. Doing that gives us this option. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and press the right hand arrow, and if I do that, it stops. Left hand, it stops. Right hand, it stops. So as long as I'm holding down the direction that I want to go in, it'll keep going, but the moment I choose that I choose to stop, it'll stop. And that's what we want. Okay. Now, the other issue is that I can go off the screen, which is really not cool considering that we have to destroy some meteors. So let's see if we can explain that real quick. All right, so let me just go ahead and just clear all these things out. Clear annotations. All right, so here's our ship. Okay, just because my big face is over here, I'm gonna pretend that this is the screen. All right, so if we're holding down the right hand side, it's going, and it's gone. Now we wanted to stop here. Okay, but like, what is this? So if you remember, here is 0, 0. Okay, this right here, this is the width. All right, and that's 0. So the way we want to say this is that if the rectangle on the x-axis, the horizontal, if it's greater than the width, we want to set this end equal to the width, because once it goes over, it'll set it back to the width. So once it goes over, it automatically sets this end piece equal to this. So it's going to look like it's stopping, but it's just every single time you go over, it just goes back and corrects itself and says, no, you are the width. You cannot go past me. Similarly, if we go backwards, and let's say that we're going here and we get to the negative, it'll automatically set this to 0. So we're going to have to use an if statement that if the end or the side of this is less than 0, then set that side equal to 0. So it keeps going like this. Now on your screen, it's going to go by so fast that it's just going to look like a boundary. Okay, and for that, what we'll do is we shall create another method. So we'll call it boundary. And this will be the boundary of the ship to the size of the screen. All right. So we'll say now if self.rect.right, okay, that is this piece right here. If this right side is greater than the width, so if it's greater than the width, okay, then we're going to set that right side equal to the width. It's never going to go past it, because every single time it tries to go past it, it's going to set it pay. No, you are the width. You're going to stop there. Okay. If self.rect.left is less than 0, again, we'll set the left-hand side. Okay, again, this is the left-hand side over here. Okay, so if it tries to go to past 0, nope, we're going to set that side equal to 0. All right, equal to 0. And of course, we have to always remember to call this before we run the game. Okay, so it's going to check the movements and then it'll check the boundaries. Now again, you might see some people make these space shooter games with all of this being in the update section. Totally cool. I just know that for myself, whenever I have an issue, I like to see exactly where my issue lies. Okay, organization. So running this here, and you'll see that it can't go to the past anymore. Now remember, this is going 60 frames per second, so it looks like like there's a boundary. It can't do anything here, and that's exactly what we want. All right, so we can go left and right, we can stop, and that's pretty much it for the player class for now. Okay, in the next video, what we'll do is we're going to work on the meteors. So the meteors, we're gonna just use a Pygame.surface for now, right? Until we establish all of the physics behind it and the movement and all that stuff. And as it's coming down, okay, we want it to be moving randomly. We want it to spawn up here, okay? Because that looks so weird. If you can see where it spawns, then you know exactly where to go to shoot, right? And we want to have different fast and slow meteors and all these other things coming straight down. Okay, so that's what we'll do in the next video. If you thought this was cool, definitely give it a like.